pornographic content shared through Snapchat to hundreds of middle schoolers. Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Megan Glova. As you can imagine, parents are very upset by this. WRAL's Heidi Kirk joins us now to share more, including parent reaction. Heidi, thanks for being here.
Hey, Megan.
So what exactly happened here?
So it all started when we got word from Wake County Public Schools that a parent actually reported to the principal directly, that around 300 students were involved in a Snapchat social media group sharing pornographic images. Obviously, something that's extremely shocking and alarming to any principal. They do say that it occurred outside of the school. They say they have certain blockers on their computers and Wi-Fi's, so it didn't actually happen on campus. It was outside of the campus, but they immediately alerted parents, let them know that this was something that is happening. Obviously, still a lot of questions up in the air, but that's kind of the basic premise of what happened here.
Okay, and who were some of the parents that you spoke to today, and what were their reactions?
So I spoke with several parents, and of course, any parent that gets word that, their child could have been exposed to pornographic material is obviously extremely alarmed. So pretty much every single one I spoke to said it made them sad, concerned, hurt. It also left them with a lot of questions. I talked to one parent who said, I went to my son directly and just said, hey, were you involved in this? It just raised a lot of alarm, a lot of concern within them. Multiple of them said, I can't be sure that my student is involved. I'm just not confident enough to say. It's not something that I've actively monitored. And it's kind of a wake-up call for some of those people that this is something that is circulating. I'll also mention that, this affected 300 students or more. I mean, we don't really have a solid number at this point. And, this is a student population, a school with, over 1,000 students. So that's a pretty big fraction of it. So, aside from just the handful of parents that I had phone conversations with and conversations over text, in person, interviews, I mean, this affected a whole lot of people.
Oh, yeah. No. And if we know of 300, then you would assume there's bound to be more out there. So super concerning. Do we know at all who started the group chat yet, or is it too maybe early in the investigation for that?
Gosh, it's a huge question. So there's a lot of things still hanging out there, and that is one of the biggest ones. Of course, everyone wants to know, how did this thing get started and how did it gain so much traction? How were, 300 students from one middle school involved in this? And essentially, we don't know the answers right now. It's something that's actively under investigation. Whenever we received the email from Wake County Public Schools that went out to parents, that's one of the things they noted. They said, we are looking into it. If you have any information, please come forward to us. We want to connect with parents at Alston Ridge Middle School where this happened, and in the broader, Wake County Public School District's, range of people. They want to be able to talk to lots of different people about this. Some of the questions that we have off the top of our heads, the one you just mentioned, who started the group chat. We also want to know what kind of material was shared in this group chat. I mean, we, learned from the school district today that it was pornographic images, but we just don't know the breadth of that at this time. We also want to know, how many students were actually sharing these types of things. I mean, we're not sure if some of them were just involved in it. Other ones could have been sharing the material. There's some that could be kind of running these groups. There's just a lot of questions, hanging out there that hopefully that investigation will uncover and that we can eventually share.
I feel like Snapchat tends to be seen as a fun, simple communication app amongst friends, but what guidance is the school district giving now about apps like these or social media in general to parents?
Well, it's a great question, and I don't know about you, but I feel like I was really growing up when social media apps like this were just starting to get big. I mean, I remember when Snapchat came out or very close to that, and it was something that was really fun, and I feel like it was so new to us that we hadn't realized how many ways that you can use it and, how you can kind of get into trouble with it. Because the way I remember it, we use it for the funny filters and we create goofy videos with our friends. And unfortunately, just because of the day and age that we're in, students are using it for all different types of things, and some of them are very inappropriate. So, back to your question, the school district is advising parents to talk to their students about these things. They just say, supervise your kids. That's their number one point here. Make sure that you know what's going on their cell phones. One of the people I spoke with, someone who works within the technology department at the school district today, she said, make sure not only that you know what your students are doing on their phones, but also what apps they're using on a frequent basis. Set boundaries from the very beginning. So when they get that phone, say, hey, we're going to make this a conversation. I don't want to necessarily be looking over your shoulder at all times, but let's set some boundaries here. Something that really stuck with me that she said is, let them know that from the beginning, like, this is a joint partnership. We want to have an open dialogue. We're not going to get you in trouble for necessarily stumbling upon this type of thing, but let's just preach a little bit of internet safety. And one of the parents that I spoke to today said, I've actually been doing that with my son. I let him know that if you see something on the internet, on a social media app that you might be unsure about, just bring it to me. Let me know what you're seeing out there and let's have a conversation about it. So I think that that's kind of the general overall message from not only the school district, but also, experts in this field, also parents who may have been doing this for a while. They just want to make sure that they are supervised.
Yeah, no, a lot of great tips there. And so where does the investigation go from here? Are police involved at all?
So, like I said, the school district is really heading up this investigation, and they said, we want to emphasize it didn't happen on our campus, but because it involves so many students, we definitely want to stay on top of it. So whenever I asked, what does that investigation look like? Is there anything that you've uncovered so far? All that they could tell us is that they're talking to parents and students, they're gathering information, they're documenting all of that, and then based on what their investigation uncovers, they will take some sort of action. I pressed them a little bit on what might that action look like. They just said they didn't want to make any assumptions, and so they couldn't tell me just yet. But we do know that, there will likely be something that happens at the end of this if they uncover something. I also asked, can you link this to any particular student yet? Like we mentioned before, we just don't know at this point. We don't know who started the group chats or were some of the main players in this. So those are still questions that are out there. I also reached out to police today, and the Cary Police Department immediately got back to me. They said, we are aware of this, but we are not investigating just because this wasn't child pornography, and that's when it becomes a criminal matter. So they said, at the end of the day, this is really just an issue for parents to deal with, and, the school district, which it appears that they want to play a role in this because they are investigating. So that's kind of where this stands. Again, I want to note a lot of questions still out there. This is very early on. This email was sent just a few days ago to inform parents, and then, right after that we were informed. So it's something that I'm sure there are going to be developments in the weeks and months to come.
All right, Heidi, thanks so much. And thank you for listening to the WRAL Daily Download. You can find more podcasts from WRAL News at WRAL.com. Search podcast. From sports to true crime, there are plenty of shows to keep you informed and also entertained. I'm Megan Glova. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.